everyone. I am Mandeep and I am your online IELTS coach. This is my second lecture on IELTS reading. In the previous lecture, I discussed about the concept of matching the headings. And in this lecture, I am going to discuss about how to solve true, false or not given questions. Or you can say yes, no or not given questions. So here arises a question. A candidate may ask me, what is the basic difference between these two categories? I would say there is no difference. There is no difference on the technical grounds, but there is a tiny difference on its thematic base. Let's understand that difference. Thematically, true and false questions are based upon the facts mentioned in the passage, and yes and no questions are based upon the author's opinion. So, this is clear? Let's understand what to check while solving true or yes, and what to check while solving false or no, or you can say not given in both the situations. So, true means an information that can be validated through the facts mentioned in the passage, or yes, I would say yes means an information that can be validated through the author's opinion. False or no both stand for contradictory or opposite. It means if an option you call false or no, it means this option is opposite of what is mentioned in the passage, and not given means that particular option cannot be validated through the passage. So here you need to understand passage is the ultimate arbiter, not the candidate. So do not use your personal opinions or the experiences. If you are going to apply those, certainly you will be hitting the incorrect questions and this will reflect in your band score. So let's get started. We will apply this small approach on the passage and try to understand this concept very deeply. So in the previous video, we discussed about the list of heading questions, and while going through, we understood one thing, that while solving those questions, we should not read the list of headings. But here the condition is little different. We should read the questions first. So you may ask me how many questions? As our ability to recall the information is just very limited, and during the examination we are also surrounded by many stress or the adrenaline rush we feel inside our veins. So do not try to read more than 2 questions. Yes, and remember, everything in the IELTS examination is in the cascade form. Information and the questions are given in the cascade form from top to bottom. So the first question is, the telegraph was invented by Morse. So I have the question, and to me the keywords are telegraph and invented. Clear? So I'll try to find out these two things. In which condition this will be treated as true? It would be treated as true if we will find that it is indeed invented by Morse. And in which condition it will be treated false? In which the information given in the passage would be contradictory to what is being asked. So what would be the contradictory information in the passage? Like the Morse only improved the telegraph, or revamped. The author might have used this word, revamped or modified. Yes, so without wasting much time, we will apply this question on the passage. So Samuel Finlay Breese Morse, inventor of several improvements to the telegraph. Now, inventor of several improvements. So he was not the inventor of the telegraph, he was the inventor of the improvements. So as this information is given in the passage, but it is little different or opposite of what is asked. He didn't invent, the telegraph, he invented the information on, he invented the improvement only. So ultimately, the answer for the first question would be false. Could you understand, guys? How did I solve it? I applied these concepts on the passage. I did not apply passage on the option. I applied option on the passage and could find out the answer. Now, I will read the second question. Morse was a great inventor as well as famous portrait artist. So here I will again fetch the keywords. Here keyword seems to be like great inventor and famous portrait artist. So remember, great and famous. Yes. So was born in Charlestown, Mass on April 27th, 1791. Apologies for that. As a student at Yale College, Morse became interested in both painting and the developing subject of electricity. After his graduation in 1810, he first concentrated on painting, which he studied in England. He would later become a well-known portrait artist. Now, several while going through this line will say, yes sir, this option seems to be true. Yes, but I would say check the information again, because grammar plays very important role here. Here, what is the question? Morse was a great inventor. So first thing is great. Yes, so he was just shown as an inventor, not the great inventor first. And again, in the later half of the question is being like a famous portrait artist. Here what is written? Would later became a well-known portrait artist. So would means just a hypothesis, just an assumption. It means it is not mentioned whether he became well-known portrait artist or not. Had he been written here, he became a well-known portrait artist, this question would have been treated in a different manner. But here it is being asked, he would later became a well-known portrait artist. It means he didn't become the well-known portrait artist, or passage is not telling about whether he became well-known artist or not. So in that way, if we apply all these things on the passage, like I am not able to find whether he is great or not able to find whether he became famous portrait artist or not. So my keywords are not validated. So the thing which was seeming true at the first glance became not given after properly after understanding that particular thing properly. So these adjectives also play very cardinal role while solving these questions. Yes, so great and famous, if you try to find out these two words in the passage, you never find. So if you never find an information, the question becomes not given. Yes, so I will read the third question. It is unnecessary. So this is the keyword. For operators to decipher means decode Morse code. So I will follow this. I'll stop the moment decoding or understanding of Morse code will be asked. Yes. So after moving to New York in 1825, he became a founder and the first president of the National Academy of Design. He also ran for office but was defeated in both his campaigns to become New York mayor. Meanwhile, Morse maintained a steady interest in invention, taking out 3 patents for pumps in 1817 with his brother Sidney Edwards Morse. It wasn't until 1832 that he first became interested in telegraphy. So here if we go through again, if we try to find out that nowhere it is containing the information he became great inventor, he just became inventor. So that way we are going to solve the question. We will not apply our wit that he was the one who brought the improvements to the telegraphs, that's why he was the great inventor. It would be your own information. Yes, so let's read the later half of the passage and try to find out question number third. Yes guys, clear? So let's look at this. We are solving this. So we have done first, we have done second. So first question was false. So as I am writing F or NG, please do not do this in your examination. Write the complete thing, false or not given, and try to write everything on your answer sheet, especially while reading and listening, in the capital letters. So this year Morse was traveling to the United States from Europe on a ship when he overheard a conversation about electromagnetism that inspired his idea for an electric telegraph. Though he had little training in electricity, he realized that pulses of electrical current could convey information over wires. So he became little interested about or interested in the telegraphy. Yes. So the telegraph, a device first proposed in 1753 and was first built in 1774, was an impractical machine up until that point, requiring 26 separate wires, one for each letter of the alphabet. Around that time, two German engineers had invented a 5-wire model, but Morse wanted to be the first to reduce the number of wires to one. So here we do not find any information that we can apply on the question, so it's okay. We'll jump on to the next paragraph. Yes. So between 1832 and 1837, he developed a working model of an electric telegraph using crude materials such as a homemade battery and old clock work gears. He also acquired two partners to help him develop his telegraph. So look at these colons. Colon means something is about to be elaborated. So help him develop his telegraph. So now there will be the elaboration. How did they help? Yes. So Leonard Gale, a professor of science at New York University, and Alfred Vail, who made available his mechanical skills and his family's New Jersey iron works to help construct better telegraph models. So still we have not found out anything regarding the third question. Yes, so I'll add one more thing to my carry, like third question is all about. I'll highlight the information here again so that we cannot forget this. So it is unnecessary for operators to decipher Morse codes. So we are finding this information. Yes, we are solving this. So Morse's first telegraph device, unveiled, means what is unveiled? Disclosed in 1837, or you can say Morse's first telegraph device was appeared in 1837. He did use a one-wire system which produced an EKG-like line on the ticker tape. The dips in the line had to be decoded into letters and numbers using a dictionary composed by Morse, this assuming that the pen or pencil wrote clearly, which did not always happen. By following the ear, he had developed an improved system, having created a dot and a dash code that used different numbers to represent the letters of the English alphabet and the 10 digits. His assistant, Vail, has been credited by Franklin T. Pope, later a partner of Thomson Edison, with inventing this dots and dashes version. This coding system was so again now I'll be pretty ready for this, was significantly better as it did not acquire printing or decoding but could be sound read by operators. So here we have found our information, like it was not required to decode, or it was not required to decipher the coding of Morse messages. Yes, clear? So it is unnecessary. So had this been necessary, then it would have become false. So it is written, it is unnecessary for operators to decipher Morse codes. So what is this information all about? This information is, it is unnecessary, means it is not required for operators to decode the Morse code. So yes, it is true. Yes, it is validated by this line, or validated through this line. Clear? So we have solved this question. So next question is, Morse invented the printing telegraph in 1844. So we have not come across any information like Morse invented this particular telegraph. So we'll find out this information in the upcoming paragraph. Yes. So, so we'll keep the highlighter. Yes. So Morse invented. So here's the word invented, the printing telegraph, and third is year here. Yes, because there are many years scattered around. So we'll have to even tell you the year. So 1842, Morse convinced Congress to provide $30,000 in support of his plan to wire the United States. Meanwhile, Morse also solicited and received advice from a number of American and European telegraphy experts, including Joseph Henry of Princeton, who had invented a working telegraph in 1831, and Louis Bruguet of Paris in 1844. Morse filed for a patent granted 1849 of the printed telegraph. Okay, so he filed for a patent, yes, for printing telegraph. So if you try to fathom the information at the first hand, you'll find that yes, he filed the patent and this information is given, but what is being asked? He invented. So is there any discussion about whether he invented this thing or not? Is this given? No, it is not at all given. Yes, it is given that he filed a patent for printing telegraph, but it is not given whether he invented this telegraph or not. So if I try to apply my principle of false, like whether this information is contradictory or not, no, this information is not at all contradictory here. So fourth cannot be false, and it is not true. Ultimately, that invented thing regarding the printing telegraph is not mentioned in the passage. So hence the answer would be not given. Yes. So he had already proved that his device worked over short distances, and the federal funds he raised allowed him to string a wire from Baltimore to Washington. So what we should do now, we should read the next question, as I started reading earlier, but I should not do this. I must read the question first. So the wires sometimes followed by railroad routes in the US. So again you will say, my favorite term here is sometimes. Yes, followed by railroad routes in US. So sometimes, so words like sometimes, often, always, never, only, I call them game changers. Ultimately these change the meaning of particular sentence. Yes, we'll find out this, whether wire followed the railroad routes in US, and it is sometimes, often, always, or never. Yes. So if we'll find that those sometime follow, we'll find that yes, it would be true, and if those are often, it would be false, because I'll let you know the reason. Sometime stands for less than 50%, often stands for more than 50%, always means 100%, and never means not at all. So he had already proved that his device worked over short distances, and the federal funds he raised had allowed him to string a wire from Baltimore to Washington. On May 11, 1844, Morse sent the first intercity message. Soon thereafter, he gave the first public demonstration in which he sent a message from the chamber of the Supreme Court to the Mount Clair train depot in Baltimore. The message itself was borrowed from Bible by the daughter of the Commissioner of Patents and said, "What hath God wrought?" By 1846, private companies using Morse patent had built telegraph lines from Washington to Boston and Buffalo and were pushing further. The telegraph spread across US more quickly than had the railroads, whose routes the wires often followed. Now, whose routes the wires often followed. So here the keyword is often. What is the keyword here? Often. Sorry for this. What is the keyword here? Often. Yes. And what is the keyword here? Sometimes. So as I have already discussed, often stands for more than 50%. Sometimes stands for less than 50%. So on that basis, the information given here is false. So guys, we have solved all these and applied the concept of true, false, not given. True means we found those options true which were validated by the passage. We found those options false which were opposite to the information given in the passage, and not given means the information which was not found in the passage. I hope you liked the video, and certainly you will share among with your friends and subscribe the channel. If you have any query, please do let us know. Write your query in the I would say comment section, and we'll get back to you. So all the best for your preparation. God bless you. Bye bye.